The smell of cedar shavings and fresh sweat is the only thing that fills your world. It is a quiet, honest smell. Your hands, once accustomed to the silk-wrapped hilt of a katana, are now mapped with the rough calluses of a carpenter. You are smoothing a joint for a merchant's new storefront in a town that has forgotten its own history. The rhythm of the plane against the wood is hypnotic. Push, pull, shave. Push, pull, shave. It is 1877, and the world has moved on from men like you. You wear a simple cotton robe. Your hair is cut short in the Western style, a shameful necessity to blend into the crowds of this new Japan. The twin blades that once defined your soul are wrapped in oiled cloth and buried beneath the floorboards of your cramped shack 3 miles away. You are a ghost living in a world of steam engines and telegraph wires. The peace shatters when the door of the workshop kicks open. The sound is sharp, like a pistol shot. You don't look up immediately. You keep your eyes on the wood, but your body stiffens. The muscle memory of 20 years of war coils in your thighs. You hear the rhythmic click of polished leather boots on the dirt floor. Not sandals, not the soft gait of a craftsman. These are the sounds of the Imperial Police. There are 3 of them. You can tell by the cadence of their breathing. 2 are nervous, their breaths shallow and quick. The 3rd is calm. He is the one in charge. The lead officer stops 3 paces from your workbench. You finally look up. He is wearing a dark blue tunic with brass buttons that catch the afternoon sun. A saber hangs at his hip, a cheap, mass-produced Western blade. He holds a piece of paper, a wanted poster, though the charcoal sketch is years old. He looks at the poster, then at your face, tracing the faint line of the scar that runs from your temple to your jawline. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. The recognition in his eyes is a death sentence. You have a choice. You can surrender and be led to a courtyard where a firing squad will erase the last vestige of your lineage, or you can reach for the heavy iron mallet sitting 6 inches from your right hand. The decision isn't emotional, it is tactical. If you stay, you die. If you fight, you become a fugitive in a country that is hunting your kind to extinction. The officer's hand drifts toward the flap of his holster. He is reaching for a Smith & Wesson revolver. You move before his fingers touch the leather. The mallet is heavy, but in your hand it feels like an extension of your arm. You swing upward, catching the officer under the chin. The sound of his jaw breaking is muffled by the roar of your own pulse. As he falls, you lunge toward the second man, grabbing the barrel of his carbine and twisting it toward the ceiling just as it discharges. The smoke is acrid and blinding. You drive your elbow into his throat, feeling the cartilage give way. The third man is fumbling with his saber, his eyes wide with a terror that belongs to a boy, not a soldier. You don't give him the chance to find his courage. You strip the revolver from the first officer's belt and level it. The workshop falls silent, save for the ringing in your ears and the wet gasping of the man on the floor. You are standing over 3 representatives of the Emperor's new order. You are a carpenter no longer. You are a killer again. You don't feel relief. You feel the crushing weight of a destiny you tried to bury. You look at your hands. They are shaking not from fear, but from the sudden, violent return of the man you used to be. You leave the workshop through the back door, disappearing into the shadows of the alleyway. The hunt has begun. By the time you reach your shack, the sun is dipping below the horizon, bleeding red across the sky. You don't light a lamp. You move with practiced efficiency, pulling up the floorboards. The oiled cloth is damp, but the steel inside is pristine. You unwrap the daisho, the longsword and the short sword. These are not just weapons, they are your ancestors' breath. You slide the katana into your belt. The weight of it against your hip feels wrong and right all at once. It is a heavy, grounding presence that tells you there is no turning back. You pack a small bag with dried rice, a whetstone, and a heavy cloak. You take the dead officer's revolver and the extra cartridges. To survive in this era, you cannot afford the luxury of being a purist. You step out into the night. You are the last surviving member of a clan that stood for 800 years. Your lords are dead. Your brothers are ash. The mountains to the north are your only hope for escape, but between you and the high peaks lies a landscape crawling with telegraph lines and checkpoints. You are a relic in a world that prizes efficiency over honor. The first 3 days are a lesson in humility. You avoid the main roads, sticking to the dense brush and the rocky beds of receding streams. Every time you hear the whistle of a distant train, your hand goes to your hilt. The sound is alien, a mechanical scream that signals the end of your era. You realize quickly that your greatest enemy isn't the police, but the speed of information. By the second day, your face is at every train station and post office. The government has placed a bounty on you that would feed a village for a decade. You are no longer just a political dissident. You are a prize. On the fourth night, you encounter a checkpoint you cannot bypass. A bridge over a swollen river is guarded by 5 conscripts. They are sitting around a fire, laughing, their rifles leaning against a wooden crate. You watch them from the tree line for an hour. They are just boys, peasant sons given a uniform and a salary. They represent the very people your class was sworn to protect, yet they are the ones tasked with your execution. You could try to sneak past, but the river is too high and the current too fast. You could kill them all before they realize you're there, but as you watch them, you see one of the boys pull out a letter and read it by the firelight. He is smiling. He has a mother waiting for him, a sister. You feel a pang of something you haven't felt in years. Doubt. The old code tells you they are obstacles to be cleared. The man who spent 5 years as a carpenter tells you they are human beings. You decide to create a distraction. You circle back and set fire to a dry hay barn a half-mile down the road. As the flames lick the sky, the boys at the bridge scramble. 4 of them run toward the fire, shouting for water. Only one stays behind. He is the youngest, barely 18, holding his rifle with trembling hands as he stares into the dark. You move like a shadow, coming up behind him. You don't use your blade. You strike him once at the base of the skull with your fist, catching him before he hits the ground. You lay him gently in the grass and cross the bridge. It is a small victory, a life spared, but it costs you time. The smoke from the barn will bring more soldiers. As you climb higher into the mountains, the air thins and the cold sets in. Your psychological state begins to shift. The isolation feeds a growing sense of paranoia. Every rustle of leaves is a scout. Every cry of a hawk is a signal. You start to talk to your swords. You find yourself explaining your decisions to the spirits of your father and grandfather. You tell them why you used a revolver. You tell them why you spared the boy at the bridge. They don't answer, but the silence feels judgmental. You are the last vessel of their legacy, and you are filling it with the tactics of a thief. The pressure intensifies when you realize you are being tracked by someone who knows the old ways. You find the signs on the 6th day, a broken twig, a footprint in the mud that shows the distinct gait of a trained warrior. The government has hired a mercenary, likely a former samurai who sold his soul for a pension and a license to kill. This is a different kind of threat. A soldier follows orders, a hunter follows instinct. The confrontation happens at a narrow pass known as the Serpent's Spine. The wind howls through the rocks, biting at your skin. He is waiting for you, sitting on a flat stone, a long nodachi slung across his back. He wears a modern military overcoat over his traditional hakama. He is a walking contradiction, just like you. "You're a hard man to find," he says, his voice gravelly. He doesn't stand up. He lights a Western cigarette, the smoke whipping away in the wind. "The ministry wants your head on a spike in Tokyo. They say it's necessary for the national spirit, to show that the past is truly dead." You stand 20 paces away, your hand resting on your katana. "And what do you want?" he says, simply. "I want the bounty," he says. "And I want to see if the rumors are true. They say you were the best of the shogunate's dogs. I was a dog once too. Now I'm just a man who likes to eat well." He stands, discarding the cigarette. He draws his blade in a single, fluid motion. It is a beautiful piece of steel, longer than yours, designed for reaching out and severing limbs. You don't draw yet. You calculate the distance. The wind is blowing from your left, which will affect his swing more than yours. The ground is loose gravel. If you lunge, you risk a slip. He moves first. He is fast, remarkably so for his age. The nodachi whistles through the air. You pivot, the blade missing your chest by an inch. You draw your katana as you turn, the steel singing as it leaves the scabbard. The clash of metal on metal vibrates through your teeth. He is stronger than you, but you are more desperate. The fight is not a cinematic display of grace. It is a brutal, desperate struggle for breath. You trade blows, the sounds of your exertion drowned out by the wind. He cuts her shoulder, you slice his thigh. Blood darkens your robes, steaming in the cold air. You realize he is trying to tire you out, using his longer reach to keep you at bay. You have to close the distance. You deliberate for a split second. You intentionally drop your guard, inviting a vertical strike. He takes the bait, bringing the nodachi down with both hands. You don't parry. You step into his space, taking the blow on your left shoulder, a shallow but painful wound, and drive your short sword into his abdomen. He gasps, his eyes locking onto yours. For a moment, the world stops. You see the reflection of the entire dying era in his pupils. He isn't your enemy. He is your mirror. He falls back, clutching his stomach. You stand over him, blood dripping from your blade onto the snow. "Finish it," he wheezes. "Don't leave me for the crows." You look at him, then at the path ahead. You could kill him. It would be the honorable thing, but you are tired of honor. Honor is what put you in this position. Honor is why your friends are in the ground. You take his nodachi and fling it over the cliff. You take his canteen and his map. "Live or die," you say, your voice cold. "It's your choice now. There is no one left to watch us."
You leave him there. It is a cruel decision, perhaps more so than a quick death, but you are learning that survival in this new world requires a different kind of hardness. You are no longer a warrior of the court. You are a wolf in the brush. The map you took changes everything. It shows the locations of the new telegraph relay stations and the movement schedules of the mountain patrols. You realize the government isn't just looking for you. They are building a net. They are using the mountains to funnel you toward a coastal town where a steamship is waiting to transport troops. They want to turn your capture into a public spectacle. You decide to stop running. If you are to be the last, you will not be a hunted animal. You will be a consequence. You spend the next week circling back, using the map to strike at their logistics. You cut telegraph wires. You burn supply wagons. You don't kill unless you have to, but you make your presence felt. You want them to fear the ghost they created. You are reclaiming your power, not through rank or title, but through the sheer terror of an invisible, unstoppable force. The psychological shift is complete. You no longer think about your life as a carpenter. That man is dead, buried under the floorboards with the oiled cloth. You think in terms of terrain, timing, and lethality. Your identity has folded back into the steel of your blade. But there is a new layer now, a cynical modern edge. You use the tools of your enemies against them. You learn to recognize the sound of different rifle calibers. You learn how to sabotage a steam engine's pressure valve. You are becoming a hybrid, a creature of both the sword and the gear. The final escalation begins when you realize they have taken hostages. To draw you out, the Imperial Police have rounded up the workers from the workshop where you once worked. They are being held in a fortified granary near the base of the mountains. The message is clear. Come down, or they die. This is the ultimate moral dilemma. If you go, you die. If you stay, innocent people suffer for your existence. The old code would tell you that their lives are secondary to your honor and the survival of your lineage. But you remember the smell of the cedar shavings. You remember the man who paid you a fair wage when you had nothing. These people aren't your subjects. They were your neighbors. You approach the granary at midnight. There are lanterns everywhere, creating a perimeter of light that makes stealth nearly impossible. You see the soldiers, dozens of them, with their modern rifles and their bayonets. They are waiting for a samurai to charge out of the darkness with a scream. They are prepared for a legend. You don't give them one. You use the black powder you scavenged from a supply wagon to create a series of small explosions on the far side of the compound. As the soldiers rush toward the noise, you don't use your sword. You use the revolver. You pick off the guards at the rear entrance with clinical precision. You enter the granary and find the workers huddled in the dark. They look at you with a mixture of hope and horror. They don't see a hero. They see the reason they are in chains. "Go," you whisper, cutting their bonds. "Run into the woods. Don't look back." As they flee, you stay behind. You find the commanding officer in the center of the yard. He is a young man, aristocratically thin, holding a saber he clearly doesn't know how to use. He looks at you, his face pale in the lantern light. "You're him," he says, his voice cracking. "The last one." "I'm just a man," you say. He raises his saber, his hand shaking. You could kill him in a heartbeat. You could take his head and leave it as a warning, but you see the fear in his eyes, and you realize he's just another cog in a machine he doesn't understand. You step forward, disarm him with a simple wrist lock, and push him to the ground. You don't kill him. You take his insignias, his rank, his dignity. "Tell your masters," you say, standing over him, "that the past isn't dead, it's just waiting." You vanish back into the darkness before the reinforcements arrive. You have saved the workers, but you have also cemented your status as the state's greatest embarrassment. The hunt will not stop. It will only intensify. They will send more men, better weapons, more money. You are now deep in the northern wilderness, where the snow never fully melts. You have built a small stone hut. You spend your days hunting and your nights sharpening your steel. Your shoulder has healed into a jagged purple scar that aches when the wind turns cold. You are 40 years old, but you feel like 100. You are the last surviving samurai, but the title feels like a hollow joke. There is no one to witness your form, no one to challenge your technique. You sit by the fire, the revolver on one side of you and the katana on the other. You realize that the system never truly lets you leave. You didn't escape the new world. You just found a way to exist on its jagged edges. Every morning you check the perimeter for signs of trackers. Every evening, you listen for the distant sound of a whistle or a shot. The responsibility of being the last is a slow, grinding weight. You are the only person on Earth who remembers the exact way your master breathed before a strike. You are the only one who knows the secret history of a dozen families who are now just names on government registers. If you die, that knowledge dies with you. Sometimes you look at your hands. They are scarred, stained with oil and blood. You wonder if you should have stayed a carpenter. You wonder if the world would be better if you had just let them take you that day in the workshop. But then you feel the weight of the blade at your side, and you know that wasn't an option. You are what you are. The era has changed, the weapons have changed, and the rules have changed. But the fundamental reality remains. You are a man who lives by the edge of his own will. You hear a sound outside. It's faint, the crunch of snow under a heavy boot. It's not an animal. It's too rhythmic. You don't move. You don't reach for your sword yet. You simply close your eyes for a second, breathing in the cold air. You think about the cedar shavings. You think about the fire. You think about the long, bloody road that brought you here. You stand up and reach for the hilt. The steel is cold, welcoming. You don't know if this is a single scout or an entire company. You don't know if this is your last night. You step toward the door, your shadow stretching long across the dirt floor. The world outside is vast, modern, and indifferent. You open the door. The wind hits you, bringing the scent of pine and gunpowder. You see a silhouette against the snow, a man holding a rifle. He levels it at you. You don't flinch. You move into your stance, the weight distributed perfectly. Your eyes locked on his. The tension is a living thing, a cord stretched to the breaking point. You know that more are coming. You know that the telegraph wires are humming with your location. You know that the hunt will go on until your heart stops beating. But as you look at the man in the snow, you feel a strange, grim sense of peace. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. You are the last. And as long as you draw breath, the past is not a memory. It is a threat. You step out into the cold. The story continues, one heartbeat at a time, one decision at a time. The world is changing, but you are still here.